Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for tuning in again. And in this one we're going to take a look at a rifle. Since it appeared in one of my other little update videos, I did get quite a few emails asking about such things on this rifle. So today we're going to be looking at my Marui MWS M733 custom gas blowback rifle. So this is a Marui MWS, and the base gun, you go buy an MWS off the shelf, and then you go buy, this is a Nova M16A2 receiver, and the build I was going for was the M733, which I think, was it in heat or something, they were using, or the real ones, they were using M16A2 receivers, which is why I wanted it with that receiver. So I would love to say that I went and spent an absolute fortune going and buying MWS and then buying all the bits and putting it together, but I actually didn't. This is one of the only custom rifles that the base rifle I didn't build. I actually bought it from overseas. They had this rifle in its bog standard form. I think it was about 800 and something pounds. I really wanted one. I've been umming and ahhing for a long period of time since I've seen it go up on there. See, it didn't come with a short mag, that's just on there. I've been umming and ahhing about this rifle, and one day I thought, you know what, screw it. I think we were going to a weekend game, and I was like, screw it, I want another MWS, I'm just going to buy one. So I bought it. It didn't come with the rail, the optic, or obviously the 7500. These are really expensive. So just imagine everything. And it also came with a really, really cheap, shitty handguard. It was the most Chinesium plastic that I've ever seen in my life. It was awful. But I imagine it was just what they could get their hands on cheap. And the whole reason I bought it pre-packaged from them was just because of how inexpensive it was. Me going out and buying a rifle and then having to source the front end, source the receiver, source the handguard. So I actually ended up swapping the handguard out for a real one. These are actually really, really cheap. I bought it off Brownells. So it's a real handguard. I think it cost me like 20 quid. That's how cheap it was, brand new. So that popped straight on there. The stock is actually the one that came with the rifle, just because I didn't really see much of a need to buy a real one. Perhaps I'll buy a real one for it at some point. I can't actually remember what I did with the grip. I think I was looking into grips and seeing if I could trying to find some source material to see if this was indeed authentic, or they had the older style ones. And then it got to a point where I just give up and I was like, screw it. It can stay as it is. It really doesn't bother me. But it would be nice to perhaps, if this wasn't correct to the real rifle, getting a grip to match as well. The rail. Again, the weekend game was rapidly approaching and I wanted to put this together. Obviously, I didn't have this at the time, but I went and bought a rail, which was just a cheap one off, I think it was off Amazon, which it didn't cost me that much, but the reel, I think it's something Smith, or can't remember, off Brownells. It was up there in the high hundreds. So I bought, obviously, a cheap one. I have had to shim it out with a bit of metal stock just to stop the side-to-side movement, so it is in there, it doesn't move. And the only other thing that isn't real is, of course, the optic. This was actually quite an expensive... will that fit on there? So take it off. Yeah, it will. This was quite an expensive sight for what it was. Obviously, this is just a Chinesium sight. I can't remember what brand it was. I think it was like King Arms or something like that. I think I had it from Fire Support, and it was like 70-80 pound. And the only reason that I bought it was because it was the kind of the sight that I needed for this build, and it came with the mount that was a low profile mount, because all the rest of them come with really high mounts. And of course this sight's already high up as it is. And I actually remember watching, I think it was, I'm going to say it was Grantham and Administrative Results. Was it Administrative Results? I can't remember his YouTube name. If I've butchered that, I apologise. They were doing retro builds and he had something like this, and I just fell in love with it. I had to have it. After that, obviously, I put the handguard on just to get a real one. And the only other thing I've added is a 7500. This is a real PEC 2 75. I think it's a 7500. Yeah. These, if you can find them, tend to fetch around. The last one I had, I sold to a guy in Japan for about £650. I got this in a mass trade. I traded a lot of airsoft stuff for a few sort of real steel items, and it came with this, and it came with all the adapters. So I was like, oh, well, we do nighttime stuff. So if I do nighttime stuff and I'm feeling a bit saucy and I want to take the M733 out for a bit of a retro sort of loadout, you know, I do need help, because this isn't a real aim point, of course. I do need help aiming this thing. So I was like, oh, that's kind of the closest to the era PEC that I have. So it mounted on there, and this of course will do high, low, red and IR. It also has the illuminator, the IR illuminator on there anyway, which I think can be sort of focused down, so it's got two lasers, and that's what I have. With a lot of my other builds as well, I run these Ferro Concept slings. This is I think it's called the Slingster. This, in my opinion, I was very much a Magpul MS2, MS3 fanboy. Same person that puts me onto a lot of stuff, which is obviously Elliot at Bavtac. He swore by his Ferro Concept, so I bought one, and once I bought one I fell in love with it, and when I got this I had to have another one, so I just got one in this sort of like Ranger green colour. And that's how I run it. I run it round the barrel and round the stock, and it works absolutely brilliantly. So this is my M733. So, you know, I run it with the standard mags. I could, if I wanted to, not that I would, because it would look a bit hard, run it with the GMP mags as well. So I could run it with the P mags, which is very tactical indeed. And of course I've got some 20 rounders too. So if I want it to be nice and low profile, perhaps I'm not carrying much on me, that keeps everything out of the way. But for the most part of it, I'll run these much like they did in Heat when they used the M733. I think part of this build is we get so caught up in weapon systems and M-Lock and everything new and fancy, and oh, this is the new rail that does this and does that, and it's stupid amounts of money. I think sometimes we can just get a little bit overwhelmed. Well, I did a little bit overwhelmed, or just want something a little bit retro. I would at some point like to build, you know, an M16, whether it be a VN or, you know, the one with the M203. Again, I'm not sure which model it is, but perhaps like a long rifle, like an M16, that would be cool as well. And, you know, I bought this with the intent of not, obviously not selling it further down the line. It looks great on the wall, and I really do love it. They come with like a few little hot bits and pieces that are, you know, sort of pre-upgraded when they build them. I'm not a massive fan of that T8 hop unit. See if you can see it here, because the way you adjust it is with like a flathead screwdriver when the bolts open. So I think I tried to change it back to an original one, but for some reason the way it all in there, I don't think it was running properly, and I thought, no, let's just put it back together, because I wanted to use it at that event. And I have toyed. I did see a guy running one of these with the Surefire handguard with the torch, and I think he had a Magpul grip and a Magpul stock, and the lower was black or tan, or it was like a tan and black combo, and it looked tactical AF. And I thought perhaps if I get bored of it, I'll just modernize it a bit. You know, I love the integrated handguard. It's just a little bit different, and every time I do field this, it does get people asking questions, because those that have, you know, a keen eye for the little intricacies and details of this build appreciate it. So that is my Tokyo Marui MWS M733. I hope I've answered all the questions that you threw over to me on email. Thanks for tuning to this video. I'll see you in the next one.